What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Common Sense the podcast. Glad to have you guys all joining us. Glad to be back on the air after a little mini hiatus. And welcome our guests that I've been waiting a long time to get on here. I've been really looking forward to this because this is the type of conversation I really like to have, because this guy's kind of a marketing sales guru, and these are the conversations that I really like to have. So y'all welcome my friend Will Harris to the show. What's up, man?
Oh, not much, man. I appreciate you having me on, though. Likewise, been waiting to be on here for a while, so yeah, we can link up.
Yeah, man, it's cool. Like one of those rare instances where I was actually, when we were doing the offsite shoots at the Monarch Stag, we met. Mm-hmm. I think it was when I was doing the Martez show.
That's right.
And we got to chatting, and we're like, all right, we got to make this happen. You have a podcast that you kind of backburnered for a little while that you're about to kick back off. But so Will is the owner, founder of The Hustle Marketing and Design, and he has The Hustle with Will Harris, the podcast. And man, tell everybody a little bit about your background, where you're from, where you grew up. Give them a little info so the people that don't know who Will Harris is.
Well, I've been all over, and my background does not link up to what I do now, which is comical. I grew up in Louisiana. Went to school and got a biology degree. Went back afterwards on that because obviously I don't use that. But from college, I went into oil and gas, and that was kind of the thing to do. It's where you made your money. And eventually, I was pushed into marketing and sales for oil and gas companies, and kind of found my love for it. Oil and gas is a roller coaster of layoffs and employment, jumping ship, and so I got tired of the shit. So I started my own company. It was during the height of COVID, and I saw a need for people that needed marketing assistance because everybody was struggling with their business, and that's where digital really peaked. And so I took opportunity to really help people out. So I jumped all over it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, a lot of people I know have gotten into oil and gas right out of college, make a whole lot of money real fast, and it's funny, they either stay in that lane forever, or they find something they're passionate about and they use that money to go after that, which sounds like exactly what you did.
It's 100% what I did. And it's not for everybody at all.
Yeah. So can you share with us maybe the story of your journey to becoming the CEO, founder of your marketing firm, and kind of what that was? What were the pivotal moments that really shaped your path down that road?
Yeah, absolutely. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Like, it was always there. I've had other businesses that I've started and sold that were quite successful. But I fought against that mindset of being an entrepreneur because it was just, at that time, it wasn't a fad. It wasn't like a thing. So I tried to take the safe road and go to college, get a degree, and society is awful about this, but it's, go to college, get a degree, get married, have kids, buy a house all in your 20s, and they it sets you up for failure. So I tried to do that path, and unfortunately for me, I lost my house. I went through a divorce, got laid off multiple times in oil and gas, and I was like, you know what, to hell with this, I'm done. And I'm going to take control of my own stuff and go and take a risk, because at that time I had nothing else to lose. So that was it, man. The Hustle Marketing Design was born with an idea. So
that's awesome. I like that. It is weird that I don't understand what that is with guys. I try to tell my cousins and my nephews and stuff like that all the time, but it's like you hit 24, 25. So I didn't go to college, so like that time period was a little different for me. But you see all these people coming out of college, your friends start getting these like real jobs or really searching for one because they all think they're going to come out and have these 6-figure jobs and pay off the student debt and this and that. And they see their friends getting married, starting to have kids. And you just, at like 24, you start feeling that pressure of like, I have to do this American dream. Like, this is the life. I'm supposed to find somebody. I did the same thing and made a fatal mistake there, that was like, oh man, I got into the wrong relationship for the wrong reasons. And, you go through those experiences, but it's like, you think you have the world figured out and that you're like an adult at 24. And it's like, man, like I can remember looking back at 27 and going like, man, I still didn't have shit figured out.
No, not at all. And you're set up for failure because people have this expectation that is majority of the time unachievable. And like you have all this pressure where you need to be financially, and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses with trends and styles and finances. And man, it's too much for anybody, but it's definitely too much for a 20-year-old.
Yeah. That's what I tell my nephews still. I was like, man, like just enjoy life and like try to figure yourself out for a while. Like don't worry about all this other like stereotype, typical things that you feel like you're supposed to do or you should be doing by that. Let it happen.
Yeah, and more importantly, find something that you actually enjoy doing.
Yeah.
That was my mistake in high school. Was I had an advisor that just put me on track that was something safe and was going to make money. Mm-hmm. I hated it. I could care less about molecular biology. I could care less about how cells and stuff worked. I was bored out of my mind, and I ended up like just the college experience from an educational standpoint was just not. It was dreadful.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot that needs to be changed in our educational system because it's like you see people like myself that didn't go to college. I mean, I feel like you have to then put yourself in situations to where you can learn and grow and get real world experiences, but you gotta involve yourself in things that to where you can learn the skills you need. But like a lot of times that's way better because it's fine tuned to what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. Versus this broad general curriculum like I'm never going to use this shit again. It's just like the math teacher that told you like you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket. Yeah. Bullshit. I got a supercomputer in my pocket now.
Yeah, it's shit, man. Your podcast ain't long enough for me to rant on education. The fact that we're still doing the same stuff that they were doing back in the 40s and 50s is just baffling. We're going to put first off, you're going to stack a shitload of kids in one classroom and expect them all to learn the same and teaching them and hoping that some of them pass. And then the ones that don't pass because maybe that's not the way that they need to be taught or educated, you're just going to fail them and say, okay, well, you're not going to make it in life.
Yeah, you don't fit this learning style.
You don't fit this learning style. And so like you have these kids that are smart as hell. They have the drive, but then you just, and this isn't like a participation, like everybody should get a trophy, but when it comes to education, I know myself learned differently. And so and kids are the same way. So you just got to change that. You got to change that whole way of processes of how you do education for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, your podcast ain't long enough for that rant.
That's all right. We got plenty of time. We're just getting started here. And I know you and I are going to go down many rabbit holes, I'm sure, just because of our previous conversations.
Yes.
Where we vibe and click on certain topics. So what was it about marketing and design that really like caught your attention that you did feel was challenging that made you want to go down that road?
So I saw what it was, to be honest with you, I saw an area to where a lot of marketing companies were doing these templated strategies, and they would go to one client and say, well, it worked for this client, let's do it for you. But then the only thing was, or not the only thing, one of the things was, well, they're not in the same industry. They're not in the same, they don't have the same demographic. They don't have the same audiences. They're not in the same zip code. They don't have the same neighborhood or surroundings of clients. And so the strategy part was what I enjoyed. And that was the challenging part, but it had to be different every time to set up a client for success. And that's what I enjoy and love, and I still do to this day. Okay.
So as a leader in your industry, because I mean, you guys have been just blowing up and growing at a pretty phenomenal rate since COVID. How would you define your leadership style and your philosophy towards your business, and how do you make sure that resonates with all the people in your organization that you're leading?
It's very collaborative. So like everybody on our team feels like they're needed in the organization. Everybody's input matters. Everybody's asked, regardless if I have quote unquote the title of CEO and founder. I still have people around me that I hold accountable to tell me no, that doesn't work, or we can't do that, whether it's a design or an ad strategy or whatever. And so within doing that, everybody really feels motivated and actually feels part of a team and not just, another everyday 9-to-5 person.
Okay, so in an atmosphere like that, I would imagine like it's highly competitive. I'm sure you have a lot of very strong opinions. How do you balance that and keep like the egos in check at the door and stuff? Like, well, I had this one super successful project, like this is the way it needs to be done. I mean, I'm sure within your team you have those struggles at times. How do you balance that as a leader between them on all that stuff?
Credibility and respect. I respect my team and would do anything for them, and it's the same for them. So they see that respect, and they see, you know, those decisions being making, and I make sure there's clear communication amongst, you know, the strategies and the things we do, and they see the outcome. But on the other end of that, I have no problem telling them when I was wrong. And so with having that respect and that extreme open line of communication, we don't have those issues of arrogance or, well, this worked, I don't know why he's not doing it again. It's more like, okay, I understand, let's see where this goes, and go from there.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good, healthy balance. I know that's, you know, even in my construction world and sales, like we have, you know, me and one of my partners, we have drastically different styles of selling. Whereas he's very, I would say, a lot more in your face. Like he's a lot more aggressive. Like he'll chase a fire, or he'll do these other things where I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
And it's like, you know, we had those battles early on because like that's what worked for him, but wasn't necessarily what worked for me, you know? And we had to like find our way through that. And it's, you know, I see that more now as our sales force is growing. You know, we've got 2 newer sales guys, one that's, you know, 2 years into sales now, and another one that just started a few months ago, and like trying to teach them and balance that out there. Like, how do you guys onboard new people as you've been growing?
Well, and I was going to bring that up if you didn't. That's the important piece, is the team that we bring on. We have a very, very intense interview process.
Yeah.
Because we need to be sure, first and foremost, the most important thing to me and my organization is the culture. And I've protected that since day one. And it's still a very positive culture. Everybody gets along. Everybody's able to communicate with each other. There's no animosity. So when we go through that interview process, they interview with 4, sometimes 5 different people, some of them even being employees. This last time, we actually had them interview with one of our biggest clients that we have a really good relationship with. And it's just intense. And all I'm doing is I'm sitting there listening, being sure, like, are they going to be a fit? They may not be the strongest designer, but they can learn. They can be, you know, you can help with the creativity, you can help with, you know, the education of that. But are they going to get along and work in synergy as a unit with our team? And that's what's important to us.
How do you guys look at further education and like making sure people grow? I mean, are you one of those people? Because I know you travel a lot as well, and you speak at a lot of different engagements as a, you know, I don't want to call you an influencer. I don't know what the right word would be, but I mean, I know you do a lot of that stuff. So how do you look at that? I mean, like mentoring and further training, like what kind of things do you send your people to?
I mean, all the way from, you know, social media classes, Google ads classes, anything that's educational that pops up, I offer. If they want to do it, the organization will pay for it. Just to make them, you know, stronger and better and more efficient, and they see that we're investing in them, and in return they invest in us. Right on.
Well, let's pause for a second, because I know as you and I get deeper into this, I'm going to forget to do this, and I know this is one of the favorite segments of the show based on what people write in and tell us. They like to do our little what are we drinking, what are we smoking deal. So well, you and I are both big whiskey guys, so we're both sipping on Buffalo Trace right now. I mean, you can't go wrong with Buffalo Trace.
If you can find it.
Yeah, if and when you can find it. And it doesn't have to be one of their allocated, you know, heavy deals, but, you know, we're going with the standard Buffalo Trace right now. And then as far as what we're smoking, you went the same route as me. What we started with was the Panda by Luciano. This is actually Panda's first cigar that he put out. I love this cigar. I mean, what are you thinking of first? I mean, it's your first time smoking
Smokes
it.
well. It's got good taste, and more importantly, the draw is good. And I don't want to, you know, pass out by like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm blowing up a balloon.
Oh man, I am a draw whore when it comes to that. Like, I mean, like that is one of the first things that will like drive me absolutely insane.
Yep.
If a cigar has a bad draw, I'm putting it out real fast.
Yep.
Like
Yep. Don't want
that,
it.
there's nothing to me that is more frustrating with a cigar. Then it would probably, the second thing I would say is probably like one that just, you can tell by the structure of it. Like it drives me nuts when people try to like see how long of an ash they can keep on here. Like, why do you want to keep smoking through the ash?
Yeah.
Like that makes no sense to me. But like, yeah, okay, you wanted to see it had good structure. Cool. Is it burning good? Like, is it like getting runners? Are you having to touch it up constantly?
Yeah.
Like,
No canoeing.
yeah, I mean, that stuff drives me nuts. But then for the second cigar, when we get there, because I'm sure we will, we both smoke cigars pretty fast.
Yeah.
Like, we're both pretty avid cigar smokers. So we went with the Patoro Terra Blanche. Mm-hmm. Have you smoked this before?
I have, and these are really good.
Yeah, like that's up there in my top list of ones that I like to smoke. So that's what we're smoking. That's what we're drinking. If you guys have other questions about that, feel free to drop in on the comments. We'll gladly answer any of those. What are some of your other like top cigars that you really like to get into?
Man, I'm a big Davidoff fan, and the reason I like Davidoff so much, and any of them, the Maduros, Connecticut's, Churchills, all of them, the reason I like them so much is consistency. I know I can buy their cigar, and it's going to smoke the same.
What is your favorite Davidoff? I got two.
Right now, the Chef's Edition from last year. Yeah.
I don't know that I've smoked that.
They
I've
come
not
out
either.
they come out every year. It's limited. They have world-renowned chefs come in, and they talk about the flavors and everything that would mix and match, and they put it in a cigar. And it's good. It's really good.
Well,
Yeah, I would say out of Davidoff, my favorite is probably the Churchill, the After Hours.
late hour.
Oh,
Or late
yeah.
hours.
Late
Late
hour.
hours.
Yeah.
Late hour and Millennium are my two.
Yeah, Millennium's real good. And then I got one years ago from somebody that was like, I'm gonna get torched for this, but I think it was Abidjan. It was like, I think it said Abidjan on it. Like this was some limited release as well that Davidoff did, and I bought like a box of them, and like I think I'm down to like 2. Like I'm just trying to hide them from myself now. They're
Yeah.
so good. I also really love, and I've gotten every one that I think they've released now. The ones that come in the little tins,
Yeah, the little
the miniature
cigarillo.
ones, like cigarillos, like
5-minute smoke.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you get done like a night like tonight, and I go home and I'm sitting on the patio with the wife, like talking about the day and the show after this, and I've smoked 2 or 3 cigars. I want to just have something else small. Like that is like the perfect little cigar. And like you said, consistency. Whether it's a cigarillo, a torpedo, or a larger gauge, they're always the same.
Yeah.
Well, as a producer, I'm in the corner smoking a grape flavored Black and Mild. This was made by the liquor store down in the corner of South Dallas.
Stop lying to these people, Biz. We do not get down like that.
I'm joking. It is a Cochin Vallon, oldie but goodie, but it works quite well. And I'm drinking.
That's out of that limited 6-pack that they put
Is
out.
it? Oh,
Yeah.
This is a no-brainer. No-brainer
Yeah.
cigar does everything just perfect. And I already had something earlier, so this is one of the. I mean, you can chain smoke these, and it's smooth, it's cool.
Yeah, Darren Chaffee puts out great stuff, man.
Everything, yes.
And I don't know if you know this, but the head guy at Davidoff, is it his grandson or his son, Pablo? Like
I don't know. Don't give me a line.
the Patoros, like he is Dr. Pablo Richard. I'm pretty sure the head guy at Davidoff is his grandfather.
Yeah, makes sense.
And he wanted to do his own thing, but like I think that's family history here. Like he came from that lineage, so
Well, the Patoros
that's where you
had
get that awesomeness out of
excellent
those. This Patoro rocks, man. I don't know how many of those you've smoked, the different ones out of that line, but cool, man. They kill it. So, hopping back to the marketing, what's the biggest challenge you've faced so far with your company, and how did you guys overcome it?
Golly, man, it's the easiest, but
That's the
most
easiest?
hateful,
Damn.
most worst answer, because there's so many businesses that go through with that. Scaling the business, knowing when to hire somebody. That it's still a nightmare to this day. I kind of, and I'll say this loosely, I kind of have it figured out, but it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle of knowing looking at P&Ls and looking at, the workloads and hours for employees and such, and going, okay, my employees need help. Let me hire somebody. That's the biggest struggle that I've went through.
It's probably like for us, like hiring estimators. Like a good estimator can either break or make you. I mean, because they're writing the blueprint that everybody else has to follow.
Yeah.
That blueprint I have to price successfully and get it out there and be able to sell it to the client. It has to be solid scope of work. It has to be detailed enough that my PMs can then pick that instruction manual up. They've never seen the job and then go execute that job. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that's similar. Like, but you're having to find creatives.
Yes.
Like not only a good worker, a good employer, but you're having to find someone that is a creative that also matches and blends with your style.
Yeah. So
is that probably the hardest part of your hiring, is finding those creatives, you would say maybe?
One of the, with the, I'm pissing people off, but whatever. with some of the generations now, hiring, some generations can be harder than the others.
Preach.
Because, because we...
Work ethic is not the same through generations.
It's not.
I'm going to say it before anybody else has to.
And I have been very blessed with some of the employees that we have that are in different generations that have been very investing. I can call them after hours and say, hey, we have an emergency, we have a PR, we have a graphic we have to do, whatever. And they, no questions asked, they knock it out. But you would be surprised of how many interviews I ask that question and they don't even give me the Sunday school answer of just saying, yeah, I'll do it. They're like, nope, after 5, I'm done. And I'm like, well, you just made this interview easy because we can't operate that way. We also have clients that are outside of the U.S.
Yeah.
So like
different time zones,
way different time zones, 6, 7, 8 hours, ahead of us. So, I have to take calls at 8, 9 o'clock at night, and that's not going to change. So,
yeah, I would say that's a big one for us too. That I struggle with this because there's probably, aside from my partners, there's probably at this point, 21 years into the business that Element's been around, I would say there's 3 guys that saw me start out as the estimator and work myself to where I am now. And some of these other guys, like, I don't ask them hardly ever to put in overtime, to work late, but I tell them, like, if you need to, you do what you need to do to keep up with your workflow.
Right.
Because I'm not going to let that be an excuse either, that like, well, I did my hours. Like, well, if you're having trouble or you're struggling with XYZ, you still have the same deadlines as everybody else. Like, we're not going to make exceptions for everybody just, all the time. Like, there's a standard. And some of them didn't see that. Like, they did see the nights that I had to, like, sleep on the couch at the office and worked 18-hour days and, all that stuff. So it's frustrating to see that a lot of them this younger generation, don't have the drive that, like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get myself to that position. Yeah. They just think it's supposed to be given to them at some point.
Yeah, and that I mean, you, again, another rabbit hole. That can go down to the whole word and definition of entrepreneur. Because a lot of these people that say, I want to be an entrepreneur or I am an entrepreneur, they really don't understand true sacrifice of what it takes to be successful when it comes to having your own business and what that really means. I've seen it. I've done the same things you have. I've slept on air mattresses. I've slept on the floor. From startups and everything else. And it's a good story to tell now. But hell, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, but they don't really relate to it.
Yeah.
So, like, telling the story, like, they didn't see it, they didn't experience it, so, like, they don't know that, like, that's really what it takes at times. Well, especially when a business is starting out.
Right, and unfortunately, it becomes that whole story that your parents told you or grandparents told you, like, oh yeah, I had to walk to school barefooted up a hill during a snowstorm.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, some of that shit really happened. So it's real.
Yeah, you got to put in the struggle. Like, you got to have the struggle to even possibly appreciate when you do get there too. So are there any lessons from those things that you took from those experiences that you apply to other areas of the business now?
As far as
like the hiring, you said knowing when to control growth and how to do those things. Like, is there lessons in those bad experiences or the come up when you were first starting out that was there a particular lesson or something that you can think about that like really like you apply to other areas of the business or maybe other areas of your life?
Oh, 100%. So when we started, we were overnight success, and we blew up, and we blew up big. And so I was in panic mode, because I feel like the worst thing you can do as a business owner is take on clients and then not fulfill their needs, and hurt them. And so in doing so, I was hiring left and right. I was like, oh, we need this, we need that, we need this. But I didn't come from a finance background, so I didn't truly, really understand how to operate a P&L.
The metrics of it.
Yeah, and look at metrics and understand where my costs were really going. So because the money was just always there. And I'm like, well, the money's there, we're fine. Well, then, we lost a client and we weren't fine. And so I learned very quick what a P&L was and how to use it, and use it very strategically. And so in doing that, that helped me with other costs across the whole company, not just employees. And so that became learning how to negotiate different terms with some of the stuff that we have and some of the softwares we have, and negotiating rents and all that stuff, and that plays a huge part when you start saving money and not just buying every little thing you think you need to buy.
Yeah.
And so that helped us a lot in our business, and it helped a lot with our profit margins.
What was that first big moment that really set you guys off? Tell us a little bit about that.
We had our very biggest client. We did a substantial amount a month, and the one thing that all business owners struggle with is knowing like it's not forever. And so they approached us, and they got so big that they were like, we're going to take all this in-house. And it was a gut punch, but it is what it is. Have nothing but love for them. We understand. We want them to succeed as well. And so, but it was a reality check, because it was a lot, and it was like, okay, we need to really pivot and change this out. So,
how did you guys come about that first big account? Like, what was that process like? How did you come about that, and what did you learn from that first one to allow you the rapid growth that you had after that?
It was purely based on relationships. I had a great relationship from Uplift Education. We had done all their marketing, and we built an amazing relationship with a lady named DK Fox, and she moved on to another company, and she believed in us and she loved our work, so she took us with her. And this company went from 10 employees to 110 within a year.
Wow.
And to be able to brag, we helped with that, with the marketing, and helped them grow. So that's, that is exciting. But unfortunately, with growth can come change, and that's what happened. So
how do you look at that, and how do you teach that to your other guys that are helping you sell and work new accounts on that building relationships aspect? Because I know that is probably the number one thing I preach to our sales guys, and that I try to instill in them is like in my business, they treat everybody from the maintenance guy to the porter to the leasing agent to the manager the same as it's the VP, the head of construction, mm-hmm. because someday they're going to be that person, mm-hmm. And that relationship is the make or break. Sometimes the bid can be about price. Sometimes it's the relationship, and more often than not, it's the relationship. So how do you instill that in your people, or what kind of trainings do you guys do with them on doing those type of things and building the relationships?
So speaking of the speaking engagements that I do and the traveling and everything, one of the biggest things I teach is sales. And there is a need for cold calls and cold emails. I get that, because it's just another touch point when talking to potential clients. But I can tell you our biggest success has been, and I feel like always will be, relationships. And that takes time. It's a longer sales cycle. But there's a reason we have a 95% retention rate. We have 36 reoccurring employees or clients every month. I can tell you every CEO's name. I can tell you every VP's name. I can tell you every contact that we've ever had contact. I can tell you their name. And that's because I took the time to know them, to build a relationship with them, and understand what they like and what they need. And that goes back into different strategies for different clients.
Yeah.
And so I'm literally a walking example in our organization of showing them that it's worked, because I have clients that I've had since day one, and they will not go anywhere else. Even if a competitor comes in cheaper, they're like, no, because he took the time to learn our business. And that's always worked. We've been in business for 4 years now, and to this day, I still have not spent a single dollar on advertising. And we became a 7-figure agency after 2 years.
And you're a marketing company.
Yeah, and we're a marketing company. Yeah, not Google Ads, not boosting posts, not billboards, anything like that. So.
Right on. What do you think differentiates you guys from your competition in that aspect? I mean, is that where you think you really set yourself apart from your competitors?
I think that's a big part of it. The other thing is I truly, and I'm not saying other agencies don't do this, but I truly care about the success of our clients. Like I really do. And I say something to all of them. It's very cliche. It sounds stupid, but it's the truth. Their success is our success. If they go out of business, we're fired. That's just how it works. So I had a meeting today with a liquor company, and the guy was straightforward with me. He told me, he said, we're struggling. We're in the red. We're bringing money out of our pocket, but they're not doing any advertising. So I literally constructed a plan for them at no cost for them to be able to grow. And then I put a budget together for them that fit what they could do to set them up for success. And I drove out there in person to talk to them about it. And that right there is building that relationship. And now they know, like, hey, this guy actually truly cares if we're going to succeed or not.
So you're literally giving work away for free to earn their business and show them how it works sometimes.
At times, yes. And that's because I believe in what we do.
Yeah.
I know, like, it's going to work. I know it's going to help. And I know that they're going to see results in it.
And then he's going to want to take that to the next level, which then gets you the contract to do what you do best.
Yes, we have case study after case study with startups in doing this. I have a close friend of mine in Shreveport. I chatted with him, talked him into starting a business selling cards, Marvel cards, football cards, baseball cards. He'd been doing it a long time as a hobby. Never really thought of it being a second income. And now he banks around 25 to 30K a month and absolutely loves what he does. He does it every day. He opens cards. He's got a YouTube channel out now. And his passion is now his career, and he couldn't be happier.
Yeah, you showed me some pictures of that when we sat down last time. Like, that's just amazing. I've always been a card collector since I was a little kid. I mean, I stuck mainly to baseball, but that's, and I still do that to this day. I'll go buy, it's something I did with my dad growing up as a kid. And, when it comes around to like his birthday or the anniversary when he passed, that's the thing I do to have that moment in time. I'll go grab me a bottle of bourbon. I'll order a bunch of like 80s, 90s wax packs and stuff off of eBay.
And open them up.
And I just sit there and have a good time.
Yeah, and think about this. This guy is reliving his childhood every day.
Yeah. And doing something he's truly passionate about and loves.
Yeah. There's so many people that go into their work every day and they just do it because they have to, and they hate it. And so we actually offer programs and mentoring and coaching for people that have a side hustle that really don't know how to make that their real career, that job.
Yeah.
And that's where the name The Hustle came from. was to target startups and people that had a side hustle to help them do what they really wanted to do every day.
So let me ask you this. So how do you deal with that? Because I know I've gone through this multiple times in my career, not just with Element, what I do now, but I mean, even back in the insurance days when I had a great job that I really loved that was, you know, I look back to the time when I did mold and foundation unit. I was in this high-end specialty unit that was really challenging. You know, I'm on the phone debating and arguing and negotiating with attorneys and legal teams and stuff like that on these high-end claims until they pretty much wrote that out of the policy. And then, you know, all that mold coverage and stuff like started going away, and the unit eventually dissolved, and then we were just kind of like a large loss unit. And I can relate this to other times in my career as well, but you can also get to a point where you're making such good money that you can't walk away almost, like until you find something that can at least match that. And maybe it's not that you aren't being successful at it, but like you're questioning, like, am I still passionate about this, or do I still want to do this, or am I missing my passion? Like, how do you help people keep that fire alive within your company? Because like burnout, I'm sure, especially in your industry, has to be really big, because you guys get on these big projects and like devote hours and hours and put the late nights in and stuff like that. Like, how do you help deal with that burnout and keeping the passion alive within your employees and yourself, maybe even?
So with us, we're constantly learning, and the reason for that is we're not niched out. Mm-hmm. We don't work with just plumbers, or we're not the go-to for electricians.
But startup, so it could be anything.
Startup, yeah. So you're constantly learning. You're working with different types of people, different thought patterns, different processes, different designs. And so like our designers are always excited when the new client comes, because it's like, oh, something new. It's always something new for them. And you know, by standard, you're supposed to find, you know, your avatar and your niche and decide like this is the lane that we're going to be in. But we have found a way that works for us in being with different clients in different industries and being successful at it. And I think a lot of that is taking the time to really learn their business and understand it. I can tell you about roofing. Now, I'm not saying I'm professional at roofing.
Right.
I can hold a conversation with you about it. Education, which is, you know, my passion. Construction, all these different industries that we have. I can sit here and hold a conversation with somebody that's in it and at least do sales. Yeah. Because I can talk about it. But I think that's truly why our designers and web developers and everyone is, you know, they stay motivated, because they know every day is going to be different. It's going to be working on something different.
So what would you say to somebody that like has a job where every day isn't as different as that? Like maybe their job does feel a little mundane to them, or that they're doing the same things over and over. How would you coach that, or how would you look at that?
And that's if they want to stay in that job?
Yeah. That they, you know, like maybe they sell one thing.
Yeah.
Like the roofer, the roofer that like all he's doing is selling roofs day in and day out.
I'm
trying to think of a good example there.
I mean, there's a couple of things that I would answer to that. One thing would be like, well, what else? Is that your only thing that you're doing, or do you want to do other stuff and learn other stuff about wealth? Like maybe they want to get into investing. Maybe they want to own some rent houses, you know?
Yeah.
The other thing is in today's age, with everything going on, everything is constantly being updated. Being big and having having a big background in oil and gas, there's a lot of big things around emissions. So, you know, who's to say that the government doesn't come out and say, okay, you have to have so much wattage of solar panels on your roof? Like, that's a possibility. It could happen. It's happening in oil and gas. So, you know, keeping educated and learning, but then also trying new ideas and new thoughts, like upselling, add another service to your company. You don't have to be just a roofer. I mean, you're enjoying your brand more than you are enjoying what you're doing because it's your company. So
Yeah.
if you can add a tool to your toolbox, then absolutely 100% do it.
Right on. This is probably a good time to transition to this. I know this has to be affecting you guys greatly, and I'm sure you guys are really like on the forefront of this, but how has technology transformed the marketing and design industry in your view, and how is your company leveraging technology so that you guys can gain a competitive edge with like all this AI and everything?
I knew we were going to go to this, and it hasn't affected us at all. And I'll tell you why. It's because of that relationship and understand what the business is, and understanding and selling the concept of time. Yes, there's ChatGPT. It's amazing. I mean, it really is. Like if you want to write a blog, you could type in ChatGPT, please provide me a blog about roofing. Or since we're stuck on that, or, cigar smoking, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like literally, it's right at your fingertips. But
And you sound like a Nobel Prize writing writer.
it's like, man, you made an A in English all your whole life. So, but which is scary. But I'll go back to that in a minute. But it still takes time to do all that. It still takes time for you to get on there and use ChatGPT and then take that and break it out and use it for whatever instance you want. The other thing is that comes into play is the whole strategy part. Okay, great. You have this amazing blog. What the hell are you going to do with it? You're going to post it on your website? Are you going to go through Cision and distribute it? Like, what are you going to do with that? What was the purpose of you doing that? And yeah, there's also, there's AIs that build websites. But at the end of the day, you can only be as creative as you are as being creative. And, if you're not careful, it's just going to look like a templated website like your competitor.
Yeah.
Because you're just looking at your competitor. You don't know what you really need. You think you know what you want, or maybe you want what you want. But at the end of the day, it's not setting you up for success. So we have these transparent conversations, and we educate our clients, and they appreciate that. And even with our prospects, I tell them, I say, look, we might not be the agency for you, but at least let me talk to you so I can set you up for success, and you can go do what you need to do without us, and you're protected from any other marketing company that might take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And it helps out every time.
How are you guys implementing or using technology as well? I mean, are you guys using AI a lot? Are you not touching it at all? Like
we use ChatGPT for like grammar checks.
Yeah. Editing,
check grammar.
Yeah.
If we're, pumping out like a buttload of blogs, for ideas, we're using that. But at the end of the day, you still got to write it up. There's AI, there's systems that are checking for AI that could affect if you're just constantly using ChatGPT and stuff. So you still got to be cautious of that.
And you still got to add a personal touch. I mean, like, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm sure everybody can notice, like, when you see my show descriptions, like, I literally have started using AI a lot with the podcast, because I can plug in this plugin in YouTube. It gives me a breakdown of the entire 2-hour show in about 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
Timestamps it. I mean, these are things I would have to pay some guy in Taiwan, a monthly fee to like sit here and edit, break this down, hope that he translate it right, hope that he does all this. Like now there's an AI plugin for that. I can then take that into AI, into a chat GPT, and say, okay, here's all the key insights, here's the format, this and that, write me an engaging show description and this and that. Now it'll get wrong a lot of times, like, was it you talking? Was it me talking? I mean, it's not infallible. Yeah. Like it still needs tweaking and work, so you have to go in and edit it, but it's leaps and bounds better than what I could write, and what would take me literally days of sitting there and being super critical and analytical of my own writing, to whereas I can take it, I can grind it a couple different times, get it where I want it a little bit, and then add a little bit of a personal touch to it. Mm-hmm. So we're doing that. Same thing with the editing process. I mean, this isn't Biz's only job, It's, for him to have to sit and edit and create all these little short videos and stuff that would be 1 minute, 2 minute long to post out there, which you guys are starting to see us do a lot more of. And I know people are really liking that. People want those short little clips because maybe they don't know who Will Harris is. They don't know what the hustle is. But they see that one little clip. Oh, I want to see more of what he's talking about, and getting those out there. I mean, you get a program like Munch, and it'll do that for you. I mean, you still have to go in and edit it. Like, it'll get the talking points wrong. Like, it might get this clip, but it's focusing on me, and you're the one talking.
Right.
So you got to go back in and flip the camera angle, and what you can do within the editing, and make it now focus on you versus me.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're speaking, not me.
Yep.
And doing those little things. But I mean, like, I can only imagine the amount of money that would take and time that, this isn't my day job.
Yeah.
That I don't have. Like, so for me, AI in the podcast world is a great tool. Like, I use it all the time. It has its fallacies though. Like I said, like, you still have to go in and edit it. You still have to go in and like look at it and tweak it so that it sounds like you. And it gets smarter over time, and it learns your stuff, but you still have to do that. So I think it's pretty cool that you guys don't even have to like really touch that. But like, then again, I don't use it a lot for my day job in construction and sales. Like, I might throw something in there like what you were saying, where I've written this email that's going to go with my proposal, and I'll throw it in there and be like, edit this, make sure it sounds right, or maybe you could give me 5 other highlights that I could highlight out of this, and then it writes something really great that you're like, shit, I wish I'd have thought of that. Like, it can be a great tool, but I'm like you, kind of like, I don't think it's like an end all be all. Like, and it's also only as good as the prompts you give it. If you just tell it to give you a roofing blog, it's going to shoot out some really mundane, like long-winded thing that's within its character limits and throw that out there. Whereas like, you could give it a lot more direction and put different prompts in to get you more.
Well, and the biggest piece about it too, that a lot of people don't think about it's AI, it's learning. So which means if it's learning, it's behind.
Yeah.
So there's no predictive to trends, to industries in that portion too. And again, that's because I'll be honest, like with our clients that need help with budget, we push it on them. Like, look, you don't need us.
Yeah.
Do this, use this, and then when you get to a certain point, then we can take it over because of time and strategy. But it's not going to predict what's going to happen in 3 or 4 months. That's what we're for.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this is the trends that we're seeing. This is what's coming up, and so like you said, you still have to put in the creativity, the work, and the right prompts to get what you want.
Are there platforms that you guys push or lean on more than others? I'm curious with like the ever expanding social media. Are you guys advising your clients to, is it more tailored, which I'm sure it is, but whether it's you would be better suited to really grow your YouTube channel, or you need more of a LinkedIn presence, or XYZ, or your content is more geared for TikTok. Like, are you guys advising on that and like creating those strategies as well? Because like I really want to get you at some point, sit down and have lunch. You and I are friends outside of this, but my nephew Alex, we had him on here a while back. He's created his own, like, it's called the Creators Factory, and he teaches Twitch streamers how to utilize TikTok more and to build their followings and stuff like that. He's a little mad genius at this stuff, and like puts together a great little program. But how do you guys engage in that? How do you implement that in the strategy?
You hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. So everybody's going to be different. Depending on what platform you use. The oil and gas companies that we do work for, they're more LinkedIn. You're not trying to buy a $300,000 piece of equipment on Instagram for a drilling rig. Like, it's just, it doesn't exist. So we, depending on the client and what they do and what they offer, absolutely each social media platform is different. So
how have you guys worked at expanding your knowledge on that and like doing that? Is there certain classes or things that you would recommend that have been like key tools that have really helped you and your people grow on learning about these different things?
Yeah, there's tons.
And maybe more so too, like masterminds and stuff like that. You and I had a little bit of a conversation about this. Like, there's different ones that are really suited for people. You know, there's Apex, there's Echelon Front, there's, you know, all these different, you know, there's the Tony Robbins of the world.
Yeah.
Like, how do you guys like balance that stuff? Is that something you feel is important? Do you guys do it at all? Not do it?
I feel like we do it. We have people in multiple organizations, but we do it for the networking aspect. Mm-hmm. That's the key part there. At the end of the day, I mean, you can always learn from someone and try it and give it an attempt.
Yeah.
I can't give credibility to somebody that's just speaking because it may be something that just works for them.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe I you know, they missed something in their talk that I didn't pick up and
Yeah.
like, I followed the recipe XYZ, but I forgot A, and it didn't work. So now I'm pissed off. So, but yeah, we do actual classes. We use the platform Sprouts for management for social media, and they do a great job with, you know, sending out, hey, attend this, attend that, you know, learn this trend, learn this, and it's helped out a lot. But we've expanded past that and looking for other, you know, edges for us to take for our social media managers to really just be on top of things.
So how do you gear up for some of these speaking engagements that you do? Because I know a big part that you're really passionate about is like the foundations and like some of that stuff that, you know, giving back and being out there and like really putting yourself out there to, I know you're big about teaching others and speaking on the things that you're an expert in. So how do you gear that?
Of course, it depends on the audience of who I'm speaking with. But as far as you talking about just preparation?
Yeah, like how do you gear up for that? Because I mean, I know you do a lot of public speaking. You go to a lot of these events. You know, you're a keynote speaker. You do a lot of those things to give back.
I drink a lot. No.
Great ideas come from bourbon.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do research the demographic. Sometimes, majority of the time, I'm given like a guest list of like the businesses that they have and whatnot. So I'm able to do that. But ultimately, you know, the things I speak on are really, I feel strongly are going to work for everyone. You know, the networking, the building the relationships, the credibility, you know, don't overpromise and underdeliver. That's a big thing. You know, stay in your lane. There's a lot of people that they try to go off and do something in their business, but they really didn't take the time to learn how to do it, and they try to wing it. And a lot of times that backfires on them, and it damages the brand. And repairing a brand is probably one of the hardest things to do, because once people get a bad taste in their mouth about like something that's happened to them, it's really hard to recover from that, especially if you're very industry dependent, or if you're in a very small town where, like, you know, there's a lot
one
of talking.
bad Google review or something.
Yes, yeah, and it'll hurt you, and you know, and you're going to get bad Google reviews from people that you just can't make happy.
That are trolling.
Yeah, they're just.
I mean, there's a guy you don't even know that just doesn't like the way you look.
Nothing
or the
better to
shoes
do.
You wore today. And
Nothing
he's going to
better
go in there and say, Will Harris is whatever. And then you've got that permanently out there.
Yep. It's amazing the keyboard warriors that are out there that are in their mom's basement.
Yeah.
And that just have nothing else better to do. And but I'm at that point where I just ignore it. I used to have a real bad imposter syndrome, and to a point to where I really cared about what everybody thought. Like I would do the stupid ass Instagram post of like fancy things and trying to just gain clout and popularity. And at the end of the day, I learned like that's not what it's about, and it doesn't make money.
Yeah.
And man, I haven't even been on my Instagram, and like I couldn't even tell you the last post that I did. So.
Or just not engaging with the trolls, or
that too. Just ignore them, block the comment, or block them, or delete them. You know?
I know you and I both have had this conversation. Like sometimes it's kind of hard. Like someone pushes that right button, and you're like, I'm going to give you the business right back.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all the time. And it's just, you know, you get to a point to where like you just don't care, because you know you finally got the mindset of like, hey, it's coming. So.
Yeah. What do you think's helped you the most, or you've learned the most from the speaking that you've done? I mean, have you always been just really good at like speaking engagements or stuff? Is there things you did to like get better at it? 'Cause like, you know, I've told this story before and I think it's funny, you know, I could sit here on this podcast and do this and like be live, be in front of X amount of people. That doesn't even faze me. Like, I could care less that camera's there, because you and I are just sitting here as friends having a conversation. That's super easy to me. But like recently, in the last, I'll say 4 months, I had to do a speaking engagement within my industry to where it's like a reverse trade show. And I was like, oh, this is going to be easy. You know, I talk to people all the time. Like, I do these interviews now. Like, I've gotten so much better at it. I feel like I can just do this. Well, I got arrogant and cocky enough that I was like, oh, I don't really need to prepare anything. I'm going to get up here and tell a joke, and I'm just going to like go for this. I mean, I've got 2 minutes to be on stage. And then you realize you're on a podium that's lit up. It's just you. Now you're in front of your industry peers.
Yeah.
Like, that's different than these thousands of people watching because they like my show or they like the guest. It's different now. You know, like now it's your clients, it's your friends, it's your competitors. And you feel all that pressure now, and you're up there doing it, and it's like, oh, I started walking sales like, this joke's not going to work. Like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
I can't say this. So now I immediately tried to like improvise. I think I ended up like spewing out something for about 20, 30 seconds. And I was like, yep, cool. I'll be around to talk to you. You know who I am. And I'm like, peace out.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking at me like, what the fuck did he just do? And like, not to mention, we were the only one that didn't have like a video like about our company, about us playing in the background. Like, so like, I was like, man, it was so bad. Like, I was like crash and burn. I was like, and what sucks is you only allow 2 people from the company to be there. I've got 2 newer sales guys. I'm not going to get to do this right now. I'm not going to get to do this again next year. Like, I'm going to have to let them go. So like, I don't even get a redemption shot. I was like, I'm going to have to wait another year, and then I'm going to have to go kill this. Mm-hmm. But I am going to make sure my guys have a badass video that we're working on right now to make sure that they're not stuck with that same thing and situation.
Good question. I prepare, and I take a lot of time to prepare. When I get lists of companies that are attending, that's even better, because I can go look up their website and their social media, and then not bring them up, but bring up examples they can relate to, and then say, this is how this should be done, this is how that should be done, and they catch on. I actually prefer live speaking because I can read the audience. This I can't read. If I say something dumb, I don't know about it until 2 days later, and I see a comment going, Will's a dumbass. You know, like, that's the problem. Yeah. So in an auditorium or whatever, and speaking to people, it's like, okay, this story's not going anywhere, so I need to wrap it up quick and move on to the next thing, and pretty much kind of start over to bring them in. So I prefer that. I prefer live.
So, in your opinion, what is the key to creating a good marketing strategy that genuinely engages your customers and helps you build this lasting relationship that you have talked about? Like, what do you think is the key to like doing that? Is it just really getting to know your client, or what are maybe some of the things you've learned that like really help you, that like maybe some bullet points of like what you think about when you're trying to develop those strategies?
So we'll touch on sales. I hate telemarketers. Hate it. Hate the concept. I hate.
Couldn't agree more.
I can't. I don't like it. It's very pushy.
It feels grimy.
Yeah. It's very pushy. It's very non-intimate, I guess. Like, there's just buy this product, buy that. You know, buy these knives, buy this vacuum, whatever. I tell my salesmen, the first thing is, we do not sell products. We sell solutions. Talk to your client and let them talk. You listen and find out where their pain point is. As soon as you know where their pain point is, it's plug and play. We can help you with that, and this is how, XYZ, we can do this. Oh, you don't have a lot of engagement on social media? That's fine. We looked at your social media. Here's why, X, Y, Z. You're not doing engaging posts, or you're doing too much graphics. You don't have any personability. You don't have real photos of people. You're using too much stock imagery. I mean, I can go on and on and on about things that I've seen. That's the biggest one. I mean, the biggest one. And then when you find out what that pain point is and you provide a solution, it's all day. And then you can provide them a good strategy. I never want my sales guys to go in and just go guns blazing. Hey, we offer social media, websites, we do this, we do that, you need this, you need that. No. Understand what they need and where they're actually hurting. Because the other thing is the client may not know. The biggest thing in this world that is underutilized by a lot of startups is data. They don't know how to read data. They don't know how to capture data. They don't know how to use data to be efficient in their company. And if you can teach them how to actually read data, like, hey, this needs to go up, this needs to go down, this is what causes that, it helps so much more when they actually understand that. But it also helps the conversations between us and the client. And that goes across the board. That's anything. Yeah. That's any industry, no matter what you're doing.
Well, and this is why I like sitting here talking to you, like even when it's just you and me, not on podcasts, not whatever, and you and I are sitting around shooting the shit, you're kind of like a Joe Rogan to me. Like, you know a whole lot, or you know a good amount about a lot of shit. Like, I mean, like, it's almost like, you know, I tease my wife all the time because, like, she has all this, like she could kill Jeopardy, you know, like, she has, like, all these random things she knows. I'm like, how the fuck do you know this? Like, you have this bank of, like, information, like, but you do that a lot. Like, I mean, like, I swear, like, you could sell ice to an Eskimo. Like, you know, you're one of those guys, like, I could throw out the most random thing. Like, I've been trying to think of one to do just to, like, prove my point here, but, like, you and I've sat and, like, someone walking by will say something about this, and, like, I see your wheels just start turning.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, is this from the experience of that? Or, like, how do you teach them to do that? How do you teach them to understand the data behind something that maybe you don't even know a lot about at that moment? Like, how do you immerse yourself into that and, like, learn that when you have a new client that, like, maybe your new client is selling, you know, surgical eye equipment or something like that you don't have a background in? Like, how do you do that? Because, like, I feel like that's one of your strong points. Like, you really, like, I don't know, like, you find these ways, and, like, your marketing brain kicks in and you're just like, well, why don't you do this for, you know, XYZ? Like, that would probably boost what you're doing. And, like, you literally know nothing about, like, what that guy's talking about, like, or his company right then. Like, you just got put on the spot, like, hot seat. Yeah. Like, how is that? Is that just something you've developed over time, or, like, how do you look at that and break that down for them, or what do you lean on in those instances? Because I feel like that's something you do really, really well.
Man, I was hoping something like this would come up so I could transition into our previous conversation. It's finding common ground, and the biggest common ground of people is time. And how do you optimize the time people have? That's the biggest problem everybody has. There's not enough time in the day. I get so tired of hearing that, but everybody's like, oh, I wish there was more than 24 hours. And then we go into the conversation that me and you had. Yeah. You know, and I ask people, like, usually when I talk, this is my opening question. What do you think your hourly rate is worth right now? If you were to charge somebody for what you do, what would your rate be? And people go into, you know, I'm $75 an hour, I'm $100 an hour. And then I follow up with another question. Would you pay your lawn guy $100 an hour to mow your yard? And most people are like, well, hell no. Yeah. Then why do you mow your own yard? If you can, and I know I'm kind of like getting off on to the side, but if you can take that time, that 3 hours it takes you to mow your yard, and actually be disciplined enough to use it for your business, how much more valuable would your time be if you're not doing this? Now, there's some people that enjoy doing that. I get that. That's their woosah. But for the most part, most people don't. I don't enjoy mowing a yard. I don't care if it's the most nicest ride mower that has a cup holder. I'll probably be hammered by the time I'm done mowing because I hate it that much. Yeah. But going back into your conversation now, that's the biggest thing of understanding. They can throw out all kinds, especially medical devices. They could throw out all kinds of words that I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. But then it goes into, what could you outsource or not do that would make you more money and give you more time to do the things that you want to do? Because there's stuff in sales that people don't want to do.
Yeah.
The biggest one is CRMs. Most people do not want to spend time putting shit into CRMs. And so it's like, what can you do to
explain a CRM
it?
real quickly for those that might not know what a CRM is?
Client relation management. And so, you got HubSpot, you got Salesforce, you got Evolve Metrics. I mean, there's hundreds of them.
Yeah.
But most salespeople don't like them, because nobody wants to do that. You're just inputting data and working on it. So, but it's going back to what you said. It's like, all right, man, you sell, and I don't know much about medical devices, but you sell scalpels. I don't know. Maybe you have the sharpest scalpels that are around. Maybe they're sharper. Again, I have no idea. But two things. I'm going to first try to dig in as much information as I can about this guy with the company he works with, and at least be able to have a conversation with him, so I don't look like a deer in the headlights when he's talking to me.
Yeah.
But then it's finding that common ground of what we have together. And majority of the instances, it's just time.
Yeah.
I can help with that.
I'm glad we were able to loop that back in. Since we had that conversation, I was like, how do we bring this back in? Because you and I did this, and I think that's just naturally both of our backgrounds being in sales and marketing and stuff like that. We both vetted each other out.
Yeah.
Before there was even a possibility of a friendship or anything else, it's kind of cool, I have a podcast. Well, I have a podcast too. And we had this and we're both half lit because we were hanging out at a cigar bar we like. My good buddy over there, at the Monarch Stag, Derek Sims and his wife, Cherie. They're awesome people. Both of us have a relationship with them. So we had some common ground, but we also had somebody else that was really after you, trying to pitch you in that instance. And I just kind of stepped back and I was like, this is interesting. I didn't get that much out of him in that evening, doing the talk we had, but he's captivated by you, and he's over there trying to pitch you on everything he has, and I'm watching you just laid back Mac being cool on it, and yeah man, cool bro.
It works.
Yeah, whatever works for you. And I'm you and I just exchanged cards. We're hey, we'll have a conversation another time, but we didn't know too, you and I talked about, because you had a podcast for a long time as well that you were working on and doing, and it was we've both been in a podcast that sucks, and what it's like when you there's no vibe, there's no synergy, man. And the conversation is a dentist visit, it's it's brutal, it's painful, and we both were kind of hey, if this is gonna suck, if we don't vibe like that, how are we gonna do this? We were both kind of we would both kind of politely tell each other nah, man, we'll smoke a cigar again sometime, that's it.
It's not you, it's me.
yeah, it's not you, it's me. I'm sorry about that. I'll hit you up down the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that night was funny, because I swear, if that guy had, if he was selling underwear, I'm sure he would have pitched it to me.
Absolutely.
Everything under the sun. He was just hey, you should do this, and we can do this and do that. And I was just enjoying my Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, and a really good cigar. Yeah. And I was all right, I like this dude. I like how he's handling this situation, because I was over there going God, I feel bad for this guy. This guy is just all over him, and it's a complete shit show. Mm-hmm. And I honestly felt I was this guy's kind of put a mark on you. He thinks he's got something rocking.
Yeah. No.
So I got a question for you. When you look at an agency, I've read and I've studied so many different agency gurus and how to get started, because I do content creation. I thought about the agency side, but as we talked before the podcast, the strategy isn't my strength. I'm more the creative. I love to take photos, do videos, all that stuff. But a lot of the guys that I've studied have always talked about your agency should only concentrate on one niche. That it's kind of hard for a lot of people to, one guy studied the $7 Million Agency. It's a book I just read. And his specialty is HVAC. Because I heard you say something that really caught my brain earlier, is that before you take on a client, you really focus on what they do.
Yeah.
And I understand it's problem solving. It's not about a fancy Sony camera, $1 million lens. It's none of that shit. They don't care about that. It's how do you solve my problem. But do you niche, or do you, if anybody comes with a problem to be solved, no matter what their industry is, do you take them on? Do you focus a little bit more in a certain type, or are you more versatile? And if you are versatile, how challenging is that? Because you may have an HVAC customer over here and a chiropractor over here. Do you find that if you do take those on, is it still kind of all the common same thing, as in, let's solve your problem as far as identity, or do you like to keep it more bundled into one concentration?
Good question. There's a lot of parts to that. So let's dive into
Let's
it.
talk about the niche part. The niche, like, do you focus on one industry, or do you do several?
No, we do several, and there's a reason for that. And this is one of the reasons why I started the agency. Not all. So I'm not throwing all under the bus, but a lot of ones that I've seen that are very niche, you take their clients and you look at their websites, they all look the same. Every one of them. Because they're able to sell websites at a lower cost because they already have the template built and it's plug and play. And if you're selling, because we've talked about it a lot, but if you're selling to a roofing company, there's a shit ton of roofing companies. Okay. Well, if they all look the same, how am I doing my client any benefit? I'm not. Because I need them to stand out amongst everyone else that's in the area of doing roofs. Does it take more time? 100% it does. Because that goes into the relationship, because we have to take the time to build the relationship. We like to call ourselves a boutique agency. Usually when you hear like boutique hotel, it's very customized. All the rooms are different. It's very different experiences each time you go. So you keep coming back because you're like, I go back, I'm going to stay in the Waltz room or the Hemingway room or whatever. It's always a different experience. So that's the same thing with us. You're going to get a different experience no matter what client you are, but you're going to get something that's yours. You're going to get something for your brand. So if you were to line up the websites that we've built for the different clients that we have, you would probably think, other than our name being on the bottom, you'd probably think like these are all built from different companies, and they're not, because we take the time to know their business and then try new things with them to separate them from their competitors.
Okay, you answered that question. Don't need to go any deeper. So let me ask you that with the website. Website versus app.
Versus what? App?
App. An application app. You know, everybody, pretty much 90% of the world does everything through their phone now. You know, there's still some of us dinosaurs that loves a good old-fashioned laptop and the real estate on that. But do clients come to you looking for an app experience, or do you kind of offer both? And I know some websites translate to phone-style application-ish pretty easily. But do you have a lot of people looking strictly for an application functionality versus just a website, or even just strictly an app and not worried about the website, which you got to have a website to exist in business?
That builds credibility. No, because not every company just needs an app. You know, if you're a heavy, large e-commerce store and you wanted to like simplify how people order from you, absolutely. If you're maybe a yoga instructor, no. Like, why would you have an app? Like, that's a lot of upfront capital for you that you probably don't need.
Right.
Because you could probably go to certain companies and spend minimum capital on an app, but again, it's still capital that you're spending that you could be using in other ways and strategies. So, and we're very transparent with clients. Would we make a lot of money off of apps? 100%. Do I wish all of our clients, let me rephrase that. A lot of our clients want an app, but I'm very transparent with them. I'm like, why? What do you think you're going to get out of that? You sell a product that they can use for the rest of their life. They're not going to order another one. So then why would they have an app? Because they're not going to go to your app and order another one. So it makes no sense. So again, I have to emphasize this. We really protect our clients' funding and their budget, and we're very cautious of it and make sure it's used very strategically.
That's part of the relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why they trust you. You're not out to get my money. You're out to make sure that I grow, scale, and last a long time.
100%.
So the last thing I'll say is, now the world that I live in, it's the trends of everything. How everything, for 1 minute, if you go way back to Vines and all that stuff, you got 6 seconds to sell and you're out. And now everybody lives in the world of reels, and things like that. Do you find, I won't call it a challenge, but I would call it more of how interesting, like, are you more in the world of figuring out what are the trends that capture people's attention in order to get your client in front of people? Or is it more of a stay with the basics of a good solid website or a good solid message or whatever their need may be, but how much time do you have to put into studying trends to stay up with the mindset of the consumer?
So understanding trends is great, but limited people think about being trendsetters. And that's where it comes the excitement. Because if you can be a trendsetter, it really sets you apart from your competition, because then they're doing what you're doing. And that goes across the board. That's not just social media. Understanding trends is great, and it is helpful. I'm not taking away from that. We pitch it. We tell our clients, hey, look, this is trending right now on TikTok. This is a video that's trending. We need to absolutely do it.
But how do you ever make them overcome the fear of being the first one out the gate to do it this way?
Because of the relationship, and they have belief. 100%.
That's the hardest thing I fight. Everybody wants to look like everybody else online, but we say, let's try it this way, try it different. Everybody's like, nah, because they literally want to mimic something else they saw. Yeah. And they saw the success with it. Yeah. But I've learned that once you start doing what's trending, the shit's already over.
Yeah, exactly.
It's already done. It's already done, because now it's already cooked, and 10 million people are either trying to mimic it or produce it. Be the first one to market with it and try something.
That would be my first, like, no, you're not the right dude for me. Yeah. Like, if you're trying to get me to do something trendy, like whether it's the common sense web page or the logo or the music one we have in production right now that we're working on, if you sent me something, and if I called Will and he sent me something and it was like, if this looked like everything else that I've seen, I would be like, I'm out. Like I would rather, this is me personally, I would rather you bring something to the table that, like, I haven't thought about yet, or I gave you just enough information that, like, and Will and I kind of did this when we sat and talked, like, even before the show, like when we met up and sat and smoked cigar we sat for an hour, and we ended up being there for like 3 hours. To the point he was like, I'm late for a meeting, like, I've got to go. Like, but we did this, and like, and he brought forth a lot of different things, and he's like, let's talk about this, or like, how do you feel about this, so that we got that kind of out of the way, and we like knew where both of our minds are like going. Like, I would way rather have somebody that, that's his job, is to be creative.
Mm-hmm. I don't think enough people take time to sit down and have I call it a discovery meeting, to where you guys both get excited about something. Now, you got to have the knowledge to come in with the basic understanding, but when you conceptualize together and start to play in the theater of the mind to get them to see something a little bit different. But it is a challenge to get people, because they're like, this, the old school, this is the blueprint, let's do what the blueprint works, can you do it for me, versus you creating the new blueprint. And I know that's scary for people that want to be the first one out, because what if it doesn't work? I know this is a proven something, so you're telling me to start something all the way brand new, but there's got to be the one thing you just said, and I love that, keeping it on a smaller scale, because it's built on relationships. Yep.
But I'll speak for myself here too, and please jump in, but I looked at that with Will too. I was like, all right, we both have a podcast. He's in marketing, I'm in sales. Like how can we help each other? Yeah. Like that was the first thing that like kind of came to mind. Like, how can we help each other? Like, I knew after talking to you for a very short period of time, like, I don't know how we're going to connect, how we're going to do business together, but I know at some point I want to do something with you, and I don't know what that is yet, but I want to continue those conversations, because I see the value there. I see the creativeness. I see, like, you have the same goals in mind. Like, it's like, how can we help each other? It wasn't like, hey, come be on my podcast, like, so you can help me. And like, you were even like, hey man, I want to get you on my podcast as well. And like, we had these mutual conversations. Like, I don't think either of us, especially like after the first meeting, like knew, it was just kind of more of like a, hey, like, all right, like I vibe with this person, like we can have good conversation. Like I don't know what we're gonna do together. I know whatever we end up doing together is gonna be fucking awesome, but like I don't know what that is yet. But like I know that I want to continue down that path.
No, absolutely. And y'all both bring up amazing points. One of the issues that I've seen is there's a lot of competitiveness in all industries, and it's just like if you somewhat work together, life would be so much easier.
Man, everybody wants to be that guy. Yeah. That it, and people don't understand what synergy does.
Well, I don't think they recognize their own weaknesses either. Like, I mean, I may be really good at sales. He's really good at marketing, but he's also really good at sales. Like
ego,
like
is
what?
A
Yeah, like drop the ego aside. Like if he's better at this than me, like cool, dude. Like I want to learn from you. Like I'm not like asking for something for free. Like I know you run a business too. Like
it took me forever to just admit in a lot of failures, a lot of missed deadlines, a lot of things. I hate editing.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say it. I hate it. It's the most cumbersome thing. But the problem with it is, and I have my past career was radio, running a radio station. And as the program director, I try to do everything. And that's just it. Because you have the vision, you feel nobody else can execute your vision like you can.
Yeah.
Until you get stuck in the ditch. And now you're trying to, I was doing programming, I was doing sales, I was doing promotions, and I was DJing on the air.
A lot of hats.
You can't do it. And then just with this, trying to conceptualize, film it, make it look good, and edit it. Yes, I can do all these things, but if this shit is doing 2 weeks and I have other business that I still have to attend to, it is impossible. But going back to that new generation thing that we talked about at the beginning, it's hard to find people dedicated enough to deliver what it is that you need to get done, and for them to keep the passion for it, or you have to go back and fix it, or this or that or whatever. So you just get daunted and you just said, screw it, I'll do it myself. And you kind of end back up in square one. But I guess I'll say that, have you had a project so far that's just even blown your mind, the finished project, that not that you didn't believe you guys did it, but like, wow, look at what we've created.
Mm-hmm.
Or have you had I want to further this because I'd like to hear you say this too. Like, have you had a project that you were really excited about, and then after the initial meeting or something, you decided to walk away?
Ooh, even better.
I'll answer both. First, I want to pause. I want to touch on the ego thing, because I have a statement that I say that actually it rubs people the wrong way, but if you really think about it, it makes sense. So on ego, one of the worst statements that I hear that people use a lot is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But if you really think about it and you take time to understand the people in that room, you're really not the smartest person in that room, because they're going to know knowledge that you have no clue what they know. I don't care if it's episodes of Star Wars. They're still smarter than you on it. And it's taking the time to understand that and understanding how people tick.
And if you can put your ego aside to know that, guess what? Your opinion always isn't the right one.
100%.
If your opinion you don't know everything. You may be, and that is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to accept some of the things I know, and a lot of people I work with will not suck it up and realize, guess what? You can't always be right. Why don't you take a little something?
Sometimes
from somebody
point the finger back at yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Put a mirror up. And I've had, but that's maturity, and you have to learn that. But I love that, because I literally used to say what you said until right now. I won't say it anymore, because it makes sense. Because when you do take time out to shut the H up and sit back, the more you listen, the better you become.
Yep. And a good friend told me this, and it made a lot of sense. The person that talks is only talking about stuff he knows. The person that listens is the one that's actually learning, regardless of who it is.
Any industry nowadays, I think ego has gotten in the way of a lot of things, from sports to industry to whatever.
Number one killer.
Yep.
It is. Yep. And those who can't realize that they have an ego are the ones that eventually learn the hardest lesson.
100%.
Oh, that's when they learn it, and then they check the ego, and then maybe they can succeed. But
at that point, it may be too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could already be down Shit's Creek, and there ain't no coming back.
It's already there. A humbling experience is one of the best things in the world. Personally, I've had and am having, and I totally understand that.
Yeah. So going to now your question, I have fired clients before. I have, because literally one or two things would happen. They would go against everything that I said, and try to do their own thing, but then be pissed off because they didn't get results, or they didn't fully execute what we did because of laziness. I didn't think we had to do that. I didn't think that was a must. I didn't think that was part of it. And then again, get mad because they didn't have the results that they had. And then to go to your question of, a project that we've done that I couldn't believe we did it. The client that I was referring to earlier that they're taking everything in-house, their CEO came up to us and they had 2 weeks, and web developers will understand how crucial this is because this was a full custom website build. We had 2 weeks over the Thanksgiving holiday to put together a 120-page website from scratch. 2 weeks.
Oh.
And this is a very big client that's backed by some even more big people. So at this point, it's like, do I take this job? Because if we fail at this job, the brand name's done.
Bad, yeah.
And so I talked to my team. I think we had a 3-hour conversation, back and forth. What ifs? What if we do this? What if we do that? But then it came to more positive. It's like, but what if we do it? Like, what happens? And so we decided to take it on. We worked day and night, and going into like the sleeping on the mattress or whatever, that was that time, because like we were literally, in shifts. Our lead web developer, Austin, was just amazing with this. And we're talking about, multiple Red Bulls, 16 to 17, 18 hours a day, all hands on deck. What do you need from me? And like everybody was just all hands on, and we accomplished it, and we crushed it. It's a beautiful website, and it's won them award after award after award. It's gotten us published for doing it, and that was our hardest, still to this day, our hardest task that we've ever done, and we overcome it. And so overcoming that, it's like, man, I don't know if there's anything that we can't do. As far as deadlines and creativity and supporting a client.
It's amazing what you can do when your back's against the wall and you have no other choice.
My biggest motivation that I use all the time is sink or swim. That's the best motivation you can have.
Well, I can tell that you're very detail-oriented, because me and Garrett, with our ADHD, just threw 19 questions at you, and you remembered each one, circled back, and answered all of them without a problem.
While drinking whiskey.
You covered them all.
While drinking whiskey.
While drinking whiskey. So, if that doesn't give you guys a forced thought into the way that he runs business, you definitely got to.
That's what I said. I mean, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while, because this is the type of conversations Will and I have when we sit down and have conversation. And it's not just because we're sitting here on the podcast. Like, these are the things we talk about, like just bouncing things off of each other when we talk. Like, maybe that's just because this is things we both are passionate about and have interest in, but that's just kind of how we roll. Like, when we're in this process, like that's, I guess, how our brains are wired. I mean, I don't really know, but that's what we do. So what are you like a diary journalist type person? Like, do you plan out your days a lot? Like, what does a typical day for you look like? I mean, like, how do you break this down and stay on top of everything? Like, are you like the super planner? Do you journal? What do you take time for throughout your day, and how do you manage all that?
So the first thing that I actually did years ago is I did a sleep study. You can do sleep studies to see everybody's optimal sleep hours are different. And I wanted to know what was my optimal sleep time and what was my minimal sleep time of getting away with through my day. But what was my optimal? And my optimal was 6 hours. As long as I get 6 hours, I can perform at my optimal peak throughout the day. And so I have long days. I'm up at 4:30. I'm at the gym by 5. And I'm there for about an hour and a half, depending. And
you go to the gym? Shit, I couldn't tell.
No, not at all.
First thing I noticed
this guy
about
doesn't
this
work
dude,
out.
when we seen you at the Monarch, I was like, this dude is jacked as hell. What does he do? Like, damn.
That's what everybody says. Everybody's like, when they were asking me, like the guys that were sitting around when him and I were having our conversation up here, they're like, who's the jacked ass dude you were talking to?
So I go to the gym. That's my mental state. I love going in the morning because there's no phone. Majority of people are not up.
Nothing's going to stop
Nothing's
you at
stopping
5
me.
a.m.
I'm not being notified about anything majority of the time. I go home, eat my breakfast, shower, and then like it's on the clock at 7 a.m. And at 7, I'm looking at my list that I've made from the day before of what are my priorities, what is due today that has to be fine-tuned or completed, and then what's my secondary, what can be done today but it doesn't have to be, and then that way I'm not stressing of like trying to get my entire task done. And then from 7 a.m. it's meetings. I block off an hour to 2 hours a day, which I highly recommend for everybody to do on their schedule, to go through whatever it is that's important to you that you need to get done for yourself. Maybe it's going through emails because you have anxiety of having a lot of emails. Maybe it's you're the sales guy and you
hate the red dots too. I can tell already.
And then maybe it's like you're wearing that many hats and you're a sales guy, so maybe that's your hour of prospecting and cold calling or whatever, networking, whatever that is. Just go ahead and block that off, so when you share your calendar with people for events or meetings, they don't disrupt that for you, and it's ongoing. And then after that, it's support with my team. Do you need me on meetings? Do you need me for educational purposes? Do we need I have one-on-ones with all of my team members to help better them, but also to help better me, because again, I only hire people that are willing to tell me no. And then my day goes on till probably 5 to 6 o'clock. Could be later, because I thoroughly love what I do. I really do. People are like, well, you need a break or vacation. I don't want a break or vacation. I don't want that. People that say I need a vacation, that's people that hate their job and work a 9 to 5. And I love what I do. I don't like going to beaches for long periods of time. I don't want to go.
You go on vacation and have your laptop with you, don't you?
I do, 100%, and my phone. The one place that I can go to, because I'm big into playing poker, is Vegas. And it's because there's so much stimulation. I can turn my mind off of work and focus on other things. You put me on a beach, my mind is going 100 miles an hour, because I'm wondering, like, what's the next strategy? What's the next client? What are we doing? Because I'm sitting there in my own thoughts. Yeah, how can I grow? Mm-hmm. And I can do it for like 3 days, but then after that, I'm like, I got to get back. Or I take my laptop on the beach and I work.
Do you have a cutoff point? Not. I know you'll get it till the job is done, but like when I do my to-do, I don't know what it is, but Sunday night for me is that point to where here's a fresh start. Monday's a new thing, so I write down all my to-dos. Do you just go until something's done and then you say like, okay, I got this done for the day. Tomorrow's my next priority, and kind of go on there? Like there's some things you can't control. Yeah. So you may not get it done today. Of course, it becomes your first priority, but do you limit yourself to to-dos for a day span?
I do, and I try to make my cutoff point at 6 p.m. at night. I try. Now, there's times I get excited over stuff, and I'll text my salespeople or whatever, and be like, hey, we should think about this. And again, based on relationships and trust and respect, I tell them, like, if I text you and you don't want to talk, don't feel obligated to text me back. I'll tell you, like, hey, we have a 911, I need you to text me back. But if I send you an idea, just chalk it up and we'll talk about it the next day.
But you had to get that out and get it out.
But I had to get it out in the open, so I didn't forget it.
I feel you on that. Yep. Yes, I feel you on that.
The other thing that I do that I thought a lot of people did this, but a lot of people don't. With an iPhone, I don't know about Android, so I can't speak on that. Yuck. But on an iPhone, you can pin messages at the top.
Yep.
So I've actually set up my own texting conversation with myself, and I pinned it at the top. And if I think of an idea, I text myself, because it leaves an unread message at the top, so I can go back, click on it, and see that message and go, oh shit,
That's genius.
I need to.
I do that with my computer because you can send yourself.
Yes.
So if I see a website or something interesting and dope, I'll copy the website, put it in a text to myself, and send it to me to look
I
at
use
later.
notes, but
I do notes as well, or I tell Siri to remind me to look at like when they did this. Apple was ingenious.
My calendar's too full to do that.
But but check this out. Try this. When they had Sam Jackson doing this series of Siri commercials where he used her as his personal assistant. Siri, remind me to look up blah, blah, blah for common sense. Siri, remind me to munch these blah, 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 blah. And you tell them tomorrow at 10 p.m. Siri will put it in your reminders, and it'll put it there, and it'll also put it in your calendar.
I'm
and she'll
holding
be like,
him to this now that I know this, by the way.
It's literally, and just tell her. Just tell her, hey, Siri, I need to go be at a meeting. Remind me to call Will tomorrow at 10 o'clock for lunch or blah, 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 and it'll pop up. Utilize that technology
Yeah.
to your advantage, and you have a personal assistant sitting right there in front of you.
I'm a lot like Will on that, though, too. Like, vacation for me is so hard. Like, me and my wife probably, like, we've had to create rules for this now. Like, my wife's the night owl. My wife could sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and like that's enough for her. I'm not saying it's great, but like it's enough.
I will roll over any time in the night. My wife is on her phone researching.
Yeah,
I am the same as you. 6 hours is my minimum. Like if I don't get 6 hours of sleep, I'm probably the biggest asshole in the world that day. Like I need that to be at my optimum. 7 is like perfect, but 6 is like my minimum.
Yeah,
and we have a rule on vacation because she's the night owl. I'm the morning person. I'm up, same thing, 5 a.m. typically. I've been horrible about that lately, and I feel like that's actually dragging me down because I've been sleeping more and I don't feel near as productive.
Oh, yeah.
And like that, I'm seeing that eats at me a little bit. But we have the same rule on vacation. Like if we're taking a week and going to an island, beach, whatever, and doing that, the rule is because like I'm in sales, I can't rely on anybody else to like handle the shit that still needs to be handled because it's still going to come into me. Even if I have my out of office on, it's still going to come to me. I can't let that sit there. It will eat at me like no other because I want my people to be taken care of. So from the time I wake up to the time she wakes up, that's my time. Mm-hmm. If I'm up at 5 a.m. and she didn't wake up till 8, 9 o'clock, I've got 3 or 4 hours. So I'll get up, pull my phone out, laptop, whatever. I handle anything that came in, send it off to my guys, make sure it's taken care of, give whatever instruction I need, get it done. And then when she gets up and around and we start to order breakfast, that shit goes back on do not disturb and I put it away. My phone like stays in airplane mode. I keep my phone because emergency call or I want to take a picture, whatever, fine. But that keeps a good balance for us and doesn't make me lose my mind whether I'm putting a note in because like I had this great idea because I'm on a beach relaxed and oh shit, I need to do this, or man, this is a great idea. I should be doing this, or I should implement this. I do it that way. Like that's like a golden rule we've created that has really added a lot of balance to like vacation time for us.
And talking about what his does, so I by trade, I'm a process engineer. So processes are very important. And I was using Siri to do that. But at the end of the day, 2 things. A, you have to go somewhere that you don't go as much to see your reminder. And B, you're able to snooze that reminder or dismiss it and say, oh, I'll get back to it. And then you forget it.
Yeah.
With text messages, it's always there and you're texting all the time on your phone.
I'm going to try that instead of her doing that because that makes
You can tell we're
sense.
people that hate the red dots and having bubbles that have like, I have 100 emails.
Yeah.
That shit drives me insane. My wife has a junk email that I swear to God has over 1,000 unread emails. I have 4 email accounts. Like that would drive me insane. Like I would lose my mind. Like that would irk me all day long. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to go in there, delete. If it's shit, it doesn't need attention. Delete, gone, get it out of my way. Like I cannot have that building and piling up there. Like I would absolutely lose my mind.
I do mass deletes on mine because of all the spam and all the shit you get, but I'll flag the important ones. Then all the one I just do I'll take a day once a week and do a mass delete all the rest of them, because when you see all these on your phone, whatever, and you're searching through, it's my HOA reminding me my payment's late. Okay, flag that one. I'll get you guys, blah, blah, blah. But otherwise, but I don't know what are the tests that they had to figure if you're an ABC type personality or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know how much truth is to that, because for me, my personality.
It's like the Wonderlic for personalities.
Yes. But it just depends on where you are and what you're doing. I think that personality sometimes changes, because you have to adapt to a situation to handle something. And some test is going to tell me, no, but you're this type of person. So it's almost like, well, you can't do that way because I said you're this type of person, which I don't totally agree with.
I think we have 3 type A personalities sitting in here right now, so that's pretty easy conversation for us. But, like my little brother is definitely B.
Yep.
Like I've had to learn growing up, like, how do we communicate best? Because the shit that stresses him out would never even cross my radar. It would not ever cross my radar. He will. My little brother will never die of a heart attack because he's stressed out about the shit I'm stressed out about. But the shit that stresses him out wouldn't even touch my radar. And I have to be cognizant of that, though, because that's the shit that's important to him.
Yeah.
And it ain't to me. And it's even harder for me with my wife. Like,
we love you, Sarah.
You add different dynamics there, but like that's what makes that like work. Like, in understanding that, just like I told somebody, we went to her best friend's wedding this last weekend, and somebody gave this speech or advice at one point: don't ever go to bed mad or angry. Let's get it out in the open. Let's get it on. That is the biggest crock of bullshit to anybody that's ever been married. It's the worst advice ever. Because, example, my wife, she's got to now process that. She wants to think about it. She wants to figure out how to either, is this something I really want to have a fight about, or I want to stand on, or is there a middle ground, or how do we want to go about this? Like,
but you had to learn how to.
I had to learn that.
Deal with that, so you don't egg it on. You let her process.
Yeah, because I was the guy. Like, I had that advice. We're never going to bed angry. We're never going to go to bed mad at each other. Bullshit. You're going to go to bed angry and mad. It's going to happen.
Because she might not be able to talk about it until the next morning.
Well, and that's the thing.
Happen.
There's no calming stage. There's if you get to a point to where you don't agree and you don't take the time to really think about, was I really wrong?
Yeah.
There's no calming stage there.
So how do you deal with that with your staff? How do you herd the cats when you have personalities or persona? Are you like, I'm the boss and this is the way it is? Or do you take time out to be like, maybe this person has a different point of view or a different angle of attack or whatever? If you disagree on how to do something, how do you manage your feelings? How do you manage the person? Is it all based on, you're going to be having this based on the interview? And people can still interview one way. I'm not saying they're giving you a total facade, but people develop as relationships and go on. So how do you handle multiple personalities and personas when it comes to your business?
Well, doing like he said, you got to learn how they tick. You got to learn like how to really understand your employee and how to communicate with them. The biggest downfall in everything in the society is not knowing how to communicate. And if we get to a point to where like we need to take some time and really think this over, I take the time, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to provide data and case studies or proof or whatever to come back to the next conversation and really explain to the person. I don't think, I can't say this for certain, but I don't think I've ever said, well, it's my final say because of, no, actually 100%, I can't say that. I've never came to a meeting with an employee and said, it's my final say because I'm CEO, founder of this company. I haven't. And the reason being is we have mature conversations, and I say, this is why, and this is why we should do it. And again, it goes to that whole respect thing. I respect your opinion. I don't think I'm the smartest person. I don't, regardless if I started the company or not. I was smart enough to surround myself with people smarter in what they do than me. If I was smarter than them, then I would be the one designing. I'd be the one building websites. I'm not.
So what kind of culture does that have in your office? I bet you the culture is probably...
It's amazing.
Exactly.
It's amazing. It really is. Again, I have employees eating with each other without being told they have to. I have employees texting each other on a friend level, and that may not work across the board. I don't know. It works for me. It works for us, and our culture it's very positive. And again, that goes to the point where I said my biggest play is protecting the culture of our company, and I've kept that, and I'm proud of that, and that's probably my biggest accomplishment in the company.
Your ego is not in this at all.
What was that?
There's no ego in this.
No, there's
at
not.
all.
There's not ego.
So can you pick out like maybe one significant habit or practice that you think has contributed to your company's success the most? Like what has been the most impactful habit or practice out of all of these? Because we've talked about several tonight. Like, is there one that you would say, like, I would stand on this above anything else? Like, this is the one thing that, like, has been so crucial.
The biggest one is when we have an upset client and me bringing the team in that's involved with that client and asking what happened and what do you think we could have done differently? And that sounds so simple, but you get so much information from it. Even if they say, I don't think we could have done anything different, because then I can input what we could have done. And they're like, okay, yeah, I didn't think about that. We could have done that. Whether it's communication, whether it's strategy, whether it's like a type of design or whatever we presented to them, or, project management and understanding how to read them when they do emails. Every client's different, from a project management standpoint. Some of them prefer emails. Some of them prefer text messages. Some of them prefer Asana or Notion, which are project management softwares that you can use to communicate with clients. All of them are different. So, but I give my team a chance to come up with a solution and explain their way of thinking instead of going to them and saying, hey, you messed up. Why did you mess up? This was wrong. It's more like, okay, the client's upset. What could we have done that's better for the client to be more supported? And the responses I get are so much more positive. I don't have to downplay somebody. They'll admit fault. They're like, yeah, you're right. Like, we could have done this. We could have done that. Like, I don't have to bash them and say, hey, you know what? You messed up. I'm writing you up, and don't do it again. Like, it's not a good response.
So I forget what the acronym is, and this takes me back to conversations that I've had with some special forces guys. Each branch of the military has some form of this they do, and I wish I could remember the acronym right now, but they literally take down, like, after every mission, I'm going to use this because it's the best example I can think of. After every mission, good or bad, they have like a little muster where they sit down, the team, and they go, all right, everybody is going to sit here and we're going to have a conversation about this. What are the 3 things that went really well? What are the 3 things we could have done better? Mm-hmm. And what are still 3 things that went really bad? Is that kind of how you're saying you guys approach this? Like, good or bad job, like, we sit down and we talk about this so that, like, you're still constantly improving. Like, we're going to identify what really went well here, what could have gone better, and what do we still think failed, even if this was a success?
Oh, 100%. So we go through our meetings after a project, and we literally do that. Like, okay, how do you feel this was successful? Why was it successful? Could we have done anything better to make it more successful? And the knowledge you gain from that, because now people are trying to be creative. They're throwing stuff out there that they probably normally wouldn't have thrown out there, which is great because now that's something that we can take and pitch to them later on. Like, hey, maybe we should try this. And I've recently learned something kind of similar when delivering information to anybody, client or employee. I think it's called like the sandwich method. You lead with a positive, you bring up the negative, and then you end with the positive. Like, the client loved this website. Okay, they're great. The negative is we could have done a little bit more creativity on the contact page. And then you come back and you go, I don't like using the word but you can better the contact page could have been more creative, and you did an amazing job on the hero video. And then you give them the reinforcement that they need, but now they're open to go, okay, what could I have done on the contact page? Why do you think that way? How can we reach perfection? And they're more open to the conversation because, again, you didn't just like bash them and say, hey, you did a horrible job on the contact page. You gave them some reinforcement to know that they're valued in the company.
That's gold right there. Like I couldn't agree with that anymore. And that's something I think the company I'm a part of could do a lot better job of. Like, I mean, I would love to I need to find ways to implement that more because that is key.
Sacrifice for your employees for them to sacrifice for you.
Yeah.
They have to see it. They, again, touching on what you said, they don't see the times that you slept on the floor. They don't see the late nights. They don't see any of that. You can tell them and they're like, oh yeah, he's just telling me.
He walked uphill both ways to school in the snow.
But if you express it to them and you give them that respect, I promise you it'll come back tenfold.
Yeah.
Put that shit on a t-shirt, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So to kind of like wrap this, because I know we could just do this for hours and put out great content here, but what legacy and impact do you really want to leave at the end of the day with your company and what you're doing?
At the end of the day, majority of people want to have a purpose in life. And regardless if you're an employee or you're a client, I want to fulfill and help you find that purpose. So if you're a client and you have a passion, I want you to fulfill that purpose and give you the success that you need for that to be completed. If you're an employee and you love exactly what you do, I want to be able to fulfill that purpose for you to where you feel that you made a difference every day you come into work.
Absolutely. Another bomb dropped for y'all right there.
I don't know if you're going to leave this man anything left for our final two at the end.
I mean, man, I know it's getting tough, but I knew this was going to happen with Will. That's why I've been so excited about this conversation because, which I'm a little disappointed on because, we haven't had the normal live and, the comments here.
I think
but I know when
I'm looking
this,
at you got people watching and listening. They're too enthralled to even type. They're just taking it in.
I know. But I know when this drops, there's gonna be so many nuggets. I can't wait to see the munch on this. There's just gold nugget after gold nugget in this conversation that I hope you guys all gained something from because there has literally been something for everybody in this conversation, from your personal life to your business life to your relationships. I mean, everything. I feel like this is one of those conversations that literally touched on everything.
It's dope to me because it's the world I live in.
Yep.
I'm not going to call myself a freelancer, but I'm just me, doing what it is. But to see somebody take what I do and take it to the level, and then, what's the thing for business? You get it, you repeat it, you scale it.
Yeah.
And to have a purpose. That's one of the biggest challenges I've ever seen I've read a million books, seen 1,000 videos on finding your purpose. Mm-hmm. And that's probably one of the hardest things to do. I call it hard because if you have many talents, you want to figure out how are those talents best used to actually affect your world and those around you. And that's not a cut and dry answer.
And this is one of those conversations that I look back on when people ask me, what's my favorite podcast? What's one episode I should watch? This is probably going to be my number one recommendation from now on. So if you're going to ask me, this is probably what I'm going to tell you to watch this episode.
Most insightful.
Hands down, and that's not because I'm just sitting here saying that. This is legit. This is why I do the podcast. Hands down, the friendship I've developed from Will, having a conversation with somebody I didn't know at all. Actually, I had one of the most difficult podcasts I've ever had.
That night.
Top 3.
That night.
I can see why.
That night.
I can see why.
Literally top 3 most difficult podcasts I've ever done that I thought was going to be really good. I learned that you can overcraft questions for certain people by all means. That was a hard lesson for me. I really worked hard on that. It was very disappointing for me. But what came of that night, I met Will. Hands down, that's a win. You know, like if this podcast was never successful down the road, which not that I think it's not going to be, but that having the opportunity to make a new friend, to meet somebody that I know is going to impact my life and that I can now call a friend and that I've had a very meaningful conversation with and that I feel like a lot of other people are going to learn a lot of shit from. Like, that's what it's all about. Like, you guys have heard this man talk about his ups, his downs, things that were roadblocks that he turned into stepping stones. You've heard him talk about the good and the bad, the ugly. I mean, like everything. Like, also what has made him successful. And he's not held back anything. Like, I didn't have to do a whole lot of talking. I asked a good question, he answers. I asked run-on questions that seemed like I was never going to get anywhere. But my brain starts turning so fast when I'm talking to somebody like, Will, it's like, there's so many things I want to ask or so many things I want to get to. It's like, again, we could do this for hours.
Well, for me,
Part 2.
Yeah.
but for me, I'll put it to you like this. I never talk.
Yeah.
If you listen to all the podcasts, how often do I talk? I don't talk.
But I hadn't had to give him any shit like trying to get him to talk either.
Well, because most of the guests, I'm just sitting and learning. I've never had anybody be in my world.
Yeah.
And, you know, to finally have somebody in the world, and it's not just from being a creative, but in the world of the business and what you do and the understanding. And it's like all the studying and everything I looked at. And then every YouTube video or book I've ever read sits down in front of the microphone. And it's like, oh, shit, he's right here. So gaining the understanding, kind of getting some of the aha moments, and actually then also like, oh, okay, I do agree, or I get it, or somebody else. But just your different point of view on how you deal and relate with people in the world that we're in gave me a lot of resources. So I do appreciate that.
Always, always.
Everybody can learn from that. Like, again, it applies to every aspect of your life. This conversation can be used in so many aspects. All right, man. So we're going to wrap it up. We asked 2 questions of everybody when they're on the show when we're wrapping it up.
I definitely want to see how you do this.
All right.
Yeah. I don't think you have kids.
Mm-mm.
So you're in the same boat as me. But if you had a child and you, or maybe it's just a young person trying to come up through the ranks or somebody that, you know, is looking at you as a mentor, what is the one piece of advice you would give them?
Motivate them in what they want to do. Don't try to make them what you wanted to do.
All right. Now the fun one. And I have no idea where you're going to go with this, but I'm so looking forward to your answer. Show's called Common Sense. So we like to do a little segment called My 2 Cents. This can be about whatever you'd like it to be. Maybe I didn't ask you a question that you were hoping I was going to get into from our past conversations. Maybe something tonight where you were hoping I was going to take it another direction. But this is just your free time to like give us Will's 2 cents. I'm super anxious to see where you're going to go with this.
Oh, man. 3 whiskeys in. This could be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Prenup. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No. Man, 2 cents.
It can literally be about anything. I mean, you want to talk about politics? Whatever you want to talk about.
Hell no. At the end of the day, my 2 cents is don't, and this is going to sound like a Sunday school answer, but this is the truth, and I tell a lot of people this. Stop doing stuff for money. Do stuff that you love, and the money will come. It really will, no matter what it is. Just, it will. When I started this business, I didn't do it for the money at all. I really didn't. I did it because I enjoyed it. It was a sink or swim moment because I just got laid off, and I did it because I was like, you know what? I got a good severance. I'm going to do this because I enjoy doing it, and it might last 6 months. And here I am 4 years later, and I don't see anything outside this life.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your super busy schedule. I know we had to plan this out, but man, from the bottom of my heart, I truly want to thank you for coming and sharing everything you did today. You're always an open book, and man, I look forward to when we get to sit down and do yours, but
100%.
We'll do this again sometime soon.
Yeah.
But thank you.
And thank you for having me on. I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Y'all, join us again. We hope to see you guys back. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, please leave us comments. Tell us what you want more of, what you like, what you don't like. Have at it. But until next time, peace.